So we're going to go look at the boards themselves now. The board that I have right here is the same model as the ones you purchased. However, I believe that Brendan told me you guys got the 75 inches.
Yeah, I did ask for the larger, yeah.
And this is the 55 inch. So this is the smallest one they make because my studio is not very big and I can't fit that big one in here. But it is physically, it's the same board. So the buttons, the pens, everything is going to be identical to yours. And I'm going to get up and actually touch stuff on here in a moment, but I want you to look at the screen share first because, and again, I gave you a copy of this so you'll have it, but I want you to be aware of what you're physically looking at when you look at your board. So depending on how you guys have it set up, and Brendan didn't mention this part to me, so I'm not positive what you set up. Most school districts will have a USB and an HDMI plugged into the back, and it's either going to be like hanging off the side, like down the wall, or some schools will actually like put a port on the wall and then go like through the ceiling to come down to the other side of the room. So it depends on what your school set up. You may have cables that you need to just plug into your computer, or you may have like an HDMI cable and you plug it into the front of the board here and you plug the other end into your computer. So how you're plugging into the board will depend on your school, but these convenience ports in the front are so that you don't have to, if it's mounted to your wall, you don't have to like be reaching your hand behind to try to find that port. They work the same, whether you're plugging into the back of the board or the front of the board, the functionality will work the same. So those are just, it looks nicer in the back, but it functions perfectly well in the front. The other thing to make you aware of is the board has two front speakers, and these front speakers are really loud. They're 15 watts. I know that I've actually seen these boards in, I was in a school doing a training. They put it in the cafeteria for the training for social distancing purposes. And you could hear those speakers anywhere in that cafeteria. They're that loud. You also have your two pens, and then you have all your buttons. So the next slide is we're going to look at the buttons, and then I'm going to actually get up at the board and show you some stuff like actually physically moving, doing stuff. So let's just look at the buttons really quick. And it might be a little confusing to talk about it, but I'm going to demonstrate them as well. So the home button, you'll see I wrote that it says return to IQ. The built-in Android on your smartboard is referred to as the IQ. IQ is, you know, it's called a smartboard, and we talk about IQ with the brain. So that's, I think that's why Smart refers to their Android as the IQ. It's the smart part of the board. Then you have your input button. And your input is how you can change between the Android, your HDMI, and all of that. Your curtain is just going to black out your screen. So whatever is on your screen, if you hit the curtain button, the screen just turns black. So if you have, like, let's say that you were doing an assignment like our icebreaker, and you had a kid write something inappropriate, you can hit that blackout button, the screen turns black, and you don't have to worry about the other kids seeing it. You can get it off fast. If, or let's say you were showing a YouTube video and it decided that before the Schoolhouse Rocks video to put an appropriate advertisement, because we know, unfortunately, that happens sometimes. You could hit that blackout button and it'll turn the screen black. Then you have the pause button. If you remember with the old-fashioned projectors, if, like, let's say that you had a PowerPoint slide and you needed to go check an email from the principal really quick, you could freeze the projector on the PowerPoint and then go to your computer and check your email. That's what the pause button does. It freezes whatever on the screen. So if your computer's doing something else, it doesn't show what's on your computer. Then you have your volume up and your volume down. And then the last button is the power button. So that's everything that is on the board itself. On your screen, you have your settings button, you have your files, your apps, and I'm going to talk about what files and apps do. You have another location to change your input. So you have the input button on the buttons, but you also have input on your screen. And then if you have it enabled, you have wireless screen sharing. And then the last button is the cleanup logout. And we're going to talk about that as well. On the top left of your smartboard, you will see a user login, and we're going to talk about that because it's really handy to do. It helps make sure that your passwords are secure and you can access your files through this all files. All right, so I am going to stop sharing now because I'm going to actually get up on my board. And we're going to go to the home screen. So you guys are now looking at the Android. So when we're looking at this Android, this is what our computer defaults to. Again, this is referred to as the IQ. There are, again, those couple options. You have your settings. You have files, apps, input, screen share, and cleanup. When you hit cleanup, what this does is it takes everything off of the main screen. So it gets rid of your recents and it just puts your favorites. If I was to go here to files though, everything that I've done on the board is still there. So don't worry, don't think you're going to delete something by hitting cleanup. The cleanup does not delete anything, it just takes it off the home screen. So going back to that home screen, we're going to look at the settings first, and then we're going to look at the other things, because there are a couple of settings that you will need to know as you are using this board. So the settings is on the bottom. It's just a little picture of a gear. So here are the things and settings that you need to know as an everyday user of the board. Wallpaper. Right now my screen is blank. It was just blue, but I could put wallpaper. If you're a Disney fan, you can put Epcot. I don't think that's really Epcot, but I think it looks like Spaceship Earth, so I'm calling it Epcot. You can put your monsters. You could also take a USB right here in the front of your board, and you can take a JPEG. So I know some teachers do student of the month, and they'll put their student of the month as the background for a month, and the next month they put a new student as the background. You would just put the flash drive in the front of the board, the USB will pop up, and you can take those pictures. So that's how you can change your background. The next setting that you guys need to know about is your smart whiteboard. Right now, it is not a function feature, but it should be coming in the next month or two. One of these toggle switches will say finger. You want to turn that on when it shows up because you're going to be able to use the pen and your finger on the Android. You can do that currently on the computer, but on the Android right now it's pens only. So that's just, again, that's something that will be coming soon. So just know that that's where you'll enable it, is under Smart Whiteboard. Screen share. This is something I'm going to tell you because your kids do have Chromebooks. If you want to have your screen sharing on, this top one that says require permission, turn it on. If you have require permission turned on, if a kid goes to wirelessly share to your board, it will actually just pop up with it'll say like Corey's MacBook would like to join. Yes, no. If you do not have permissions on, as soon as a Chromebook connects, their screen will pop up. So by requiring that permission, it lets you as the teacher allow something to be shared rather than just popping up on the board. You could also disable AirPlay. So let's say your kids have Chromebooks, but you don't want them sharing from their iPhone. Turn off AirPlay, and now only Google Cast can share. So that's just the screen sharing features. If you are going to do wireless sharing, that's a really important feature to know, and it's underneath the application settings. All right. The last setting that I want you guys to know about, actually there's two more. So I skipped network on the top. If your Wi-Fi is not working, check your network. Sometimes that toggle switch turns itself off for some reason and you're not connected to the internet. So just turn that on and make sure you're connected to your Wi-Fi. So again, if your board is not connected to your internet, that's how you can check that. If you have it plugged into your, I'm on the slow network for some reason. If you have it plugged in with your Ethernet, so like it's plugged into the wall, you never have to worry about connecting and disconnecting. It'll be connected. But if you're using Wi-Fi, that's how you would check if that's the issue. And then the last thing is software updates, which is all the way down at the bottom. It does update automatically, but let's say that you just had off for spring break and you turn the board off for the whole week. When you come back to school, go into your settings to software update and click check for updates now. The reason you want to do that is because, again, if the board was off, it's not going to receive those updates. Those updates come around 2 a.m. in the morning. So when you shut your board off at night from the power key, it's actually going to sleep. It's not shutting it off completely. If you unplug it, it's off completely. So that's why the checking for updates, you occasionally have to do it manually, but most of the time it should be automatic. To get back to our home screen, we're going to hit that home button. All right, any questions about the settings before we go into the whiteboard and the other Android functions? Very quiet group, isn't it?
So Corey, I was just typing into the team that I'll be breaking up this information that you're providing, which is very tech heavy, and not all of our teachers have had the opportunity to have the, oh, come on, really? Sorry. I'm like, Amazon needs to deliver to the neighbor right now. I'll break it down and have like smaller, quicker videos so that they can have settings. The information.
And we are recording this, so we can definitely break it into smaller. And I could even, I'll write a note that to break it down. Like, so when I'm going to upload it to YouTube and then send you guys the private link. Right. I could put a table of contents that says like settings 1 minute, 40 seconds or whatever timestamp it's at.
Yeah, and I was also going to offer our teams that I will do sessions with them, because I have the freedom to do that, where I go into a classroom and they can have their boards all set up and ready, and we can do stuff together too. Okay. I recognize the look of panic in a few of your eyes.
Does anyone have the board? Like, are they in the classrooms right now with the boards? Or?
No, they are not, which is why I wanted to assure them that they have my backup and yours as well, but that we'll have an opportunity. Some of them have boards. Many of them do not yet.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely, and don't think that just because this training is only for today, I'm giving you guys my email address, my Twitter handle. Reach out. Don't hesitate. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm really trying to get to 2,000 followers, and I'm like stuck at 1,700. So, all right. So we're going to look at the Android, and then after, this is the last part of the hardware. And then after we talk about the hardware, well, actually, I talked about the buttons. I didn't demonstrate them. So let me demonstrate the buttons. But after we talk about the hardware, we're going to go into the software, because I want you guys to see the program that comes with the smart boards, because it's the one that we did that little icebreaker on, and it's really versatile, and it can give you a lot of options with your students. So when we're here at the home screen of the smart board, you're going to see your files, apps, input, and screen share. And on the favorites, you typically will have your whiteboard, your browser, and your player. The player is not actually one that you need to worry about. I don't know why it still is a favorite. That's from like a year ago before Smart updated other stuff. But whiteboard and browser are the two that you're going to want to know. You don't always want to plug your computer into the board if you have something simple that you need to do. So if you click the whiteboard, it's going to open up a whiteboard. Imagine that, right? All you have to do is pick up your pen and start writing. Ignoring my bad handwriting, this is why I taught math and computers and never taught literacy and handwriting. Now, I have it with a black pen by default, but I can come over here to the left and click on that pen icon, and you'll see that it opened up. Let me zoom in. You'll see when I zoom in on that left, it opened up a list of pens. So I can change the color. And now if I write, you'll see that I'm writing in red. I can do that again. I can click the pen. I can pick a different color. I can change the thickness. So that is the pens that are built into the whiteboard. It's kind of hard to see, so I want to point this one out to you. that bottom white dot, that is not white ink. It actually has three dots in it. And if you click on it, you'll see it brings up the whole color wheel. So you could actually write any color you want. So just because it has those 4 colors as samples, you could write any color. While I'm zoomed in on that part of the whiteboard, before I pull my camera back out, I also want to show you, you have your selector. So if I want to, why is that not selecting? That should have selected when I did that, but so the selector normally will let you select multiple things. Once you select, you can stretch it up and down, so you can make it bigger, smaller. You can click that little dot on the top and rotate it. You could also, if you click that arrow, let me get it into the camera view. This arrow right here that shows up on the blue box, when you click on that, that's how you can delete something. The other way to delete is to take your whole hand and it turns into an eraser. And I'll show you that when I go bigger screen too. If you want to embed a picture, click on that picture and you'll see it says add online content. As soon as I click, a little keyboard pops up. I'm just going to type Elmo because I, for some reason, have had Sesame Street on my mind, even though I probably should have typed TARDIS, but you know. Notice that some of the Elmos are a little weird. So it is a safe image search, but it's not always safe. But you can click on the picture. And if I zoom back out on my board, so that way you can see the whole board, you'll see that that picture just got embedded onto my whiteboard. So now I can write on the picture. So that is the image search that's built into the board. Now I got to zoom back in because of course I zoomed out. Oh, wrong way. You would think I'd know how to use this remote control after all these webinars I've been doing, right? I never aim it correctly. All right, so the next thing down here is that 4 square icon. And what that one does is it opens up widgets. You have a clock, dice, spinner, timer. For those math teachers, you're going to have your geodric. I think that's how you pronounce that. But you have a protractor and a ruler. They're coming out with more widgets all the time, so there's going to be more stuff being added to this. If you were to say, like, click on the clock. Again, I'm going to have to go full screen. You're going to see a clock popped up on my screen. If I click on that clock, I'll get that same blue arrow, but this time, zoom in a little, that blue arrow says settings. And if I click on settings, now, I'm trying to get this a little higher, but I could change this from a round clock to a digital clock. I can change it from a 12-hour clock to a 24-hour clock. So you can customize it however you need. Then you just hit the arrow, and now you'll see I have a digital clock. I can click on that clock, and I can move it somewhere else on my screen. So having that clock can be beneficial because if you don't have a clock in your classroom, or let's say you're trying to get your kids to learn how to read an analog clock. Well, you can have that set to an analog clock. Leave it in the corner of your board. There we go. Make it a little smaller. Oops. Make it a little smaller. And now I have an analog clock in the corner of the screen to try to help my students just recognize it as we're going through the day. So just kind of like a subconscious extra thing for them to kind of get. But so that's an option as well. Down below, you have those same arrows that you guys saw on the Hello Smart, because I can go ahead and I can click that plus sign and I could add a new blank page to my presentation. I could also add some activities right here on the board. So without ever opening up a computer without ever doing anything. I click on that plus sign, and now you're going to notice I have graphic organizers and manipulatives. How many of you need to do Venn diagrams and your circles are never even? Or I see a couple heads shaking. Well, if you scroll down, there's the diagram. So now I have my 2 circles ready to go. If I click that plus sign again, let's say that I'm trying to teach Cornell style notes. There's my Cornell notes. So there's a bunch of different graphic organizers already created for you. Go to that manipulative one. And now this is one that I really enjoy. So let's say I take my coins. I now have on the bottom of my screen pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars. I say to the kids, all right, I need a volunteer, come up here and make me $2.53. All right, I pick a kid from the crowd, the kid comes up from the back of the classroom, and they start dragging quarters. That's or awesome. Half dollars, or whatever they want to drag. This is an infinite cloner, which means you never run out of money. Wouldn't that be amazing in real life if you can just clone money and never run out of money? But they can just keep dragging. So you have like one kid up here, and these boards have 10 points a touch. So you could even have 2 kids up at the same time, and both kids could be dragging money. And again, this is probably after COVID is over and we're not social distancing anymore for obvious reasons. But you can have multiple kids up there doing that. So those manipulatives are just some great tools to get the kids up out of their seats to get them active. You don't need to use the stylus for that because since you're dragging, you're using your hand. You can use your whole hands. You want to try not to use the whole hand because it'll turn into an eraser, but you can use like 2 or 3 fingers and it does work. So it's a great interactive, get the kids up. Now, I know you had asked the other day when we had our meeting if they could use tennis balls like the older smart boards. And I'm going to be very honest with you, I forgot to get a tennis ball to test that.
That's okay. I know how to do it.
Okay.
We're good. But yeah, that was actually something I wanted to jump in and say, that it doesn't have to be a whole hand swipe. There are other ways we can make the board work.
Yeah. With
adapted tools.
Yeah, so there are definitely lots of different things you can do, lots of ways to manipulate that. But that, and then because I mentioned the whole multiple pages, if I click on that number, I can see a preview of what all the slides are that I've had. When I click on my home button, you're going to see under recent, there's my presentation that I was just working on. But if I click on files, you're going to see it says today, and there's a file, but then here's February, here's December, and every file that's been on this specific board is right there in those files. Click on home, it's going to go back. Going to open up Elmo again. Well, actually, we're going to open up our money. We talked about those buttons on the bottom. Now, remember, can anyone tell me which button blacks out my screen? I saw someone's hand kind of mime it, but all right, I'm going to draw a little picture.
Sorry, so you've got one teacher who said curtain.
Oh, someone said curtain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it kind of looks like that, the icon. So it's just a curtain, like they said. And if you click the curtain button, the whole screen blacks out with an icon of a curtain. That way you know the difference between the screen going like broken and the screen having a curtain on it. So it'll just go black. You hit the curtain again, the screen comes back. So that one button just blacks out the screen really quickly. The pause button is not going to do anything on the Android, but that's going to help you when you connect a computer in a moment. And then you have your volume control. I don't want to make you guys completely crazy, but we're going to go into our browser and we're going to go to YouTube so I can show you a video. And I'm not going to pick any, I'm just going to pick like a random video from the home screen. I'm not going to actually search for a video. I'm just going to see what pops up on the home screen before I click one of the random rectangles.
Because that's always safe in a school. I say with a big grin.
I've done it too, so. All right, we're going to go to Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Tony steals the last laugh. That's probably safe-ish. All right. So you'll know, oh, it wasn't last laugh, it was last donut. So you'll notice right now you can't hear anything, so I'm going to turn the volume up.
Donut with red, white, blue sprinkles.
And there's my volume control.
What did I tell you would happen?
Maybe not that loud while I'm trying to demo this. But it does get loud. But here's what I want to show you. So we're in the browser. We're on YouTube. But what happens if I want to say, look at her face? Notice that as soon as I put the pen to the video paused. And you can see the drawing on top. Well, maybe I have to zoom in more on this. So you can see that I drew on Elizabeth Olsen's face. As soon as the pen hits the screen, the video will pause and you can draw on the video. When you want the video to resume, up here in the top corner, there's a green X. You hit the X and it asks you, do you want to save this? If I hit save, it's actually going to just take a picture of the screen with my drawing. Takes a second sometimes, and then the video continues. So you can draw on those videos. That's a nice little extra thing that some people don't realize, so that's why I like to just demonstrate that. You can draw on websites, you can draw on videos. So anything in that browser, you are able to write on. All right, so now you'll notice under recents, you'll see I have my whiteboard, I have my screenshot, and I have my browser. So there's all my recent stuff right there to go back and forth between. The last thing I'm going to show you on the Android that we didn't talk about yet is logging in. Up here on the top left corner, there's a little person. When you click on the person, you'll see the option to sign in, and it'll ask you to log in with either Microsoft or Google. So you click that sign in with Google. And before I do that, sorry, I want to just show you. Right now, when I click on files, you're only seeing the files that are on the board. And you'll notice on top it says public files. If I click on that down arrow, public files is my only option. So now we're going to log in.